Hello, so today we're going to be going over patch 15.7. These are the patch notes for the upcoming TFT patch, which will be live tomorrow on Wednesday. So if you want to stay up to date with everything, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'm going to be going over these patch notes. Tomorrow, I'll also do a best comps. I do a best comps at the start of every week, so I'll do one tomorrow for the new patch to kind of give you a feel for what's going to just shaken up once we have a little bit more play time on the current patch. But normally I'm doing daily TFT guides, so if those help you out, make sure to check out my content. But anyways, let's get straight into it. One thing to note, this is the patch that Regionals is going to be played on, the Tactician's Crown. It's basically like the competitive thing that leads into Worlds for TFT, if you're following competitive TFT at all or anything like I do. But either way, all that means is that this patch is probably going to be one of the ones that kind of defines how the rest of the set plays out, because usually there's not going to be many drastic, wide swinging changes leading up to Worlds or the ending of competitive TFT, because then it's like really hard for pro players to like practice and have like a meaningful or good experience towards the end of the set. So expect some of how things kind of settle now to kind of be how the set's going to play out as we coast through those final couple patches. Doesn't look like that big of a patch if we're looking at the patch highlights, but any large changes to units could greatly sway the way certain things are played. Currently, right now, we're in a reroll meta, so we want to see some of the reroll lines getting dealt with and maybe some of the 4-cost lines being buffed, but we'll see how it plays out. Additionally, new rotating shop. Also, it's going to be the release of the Uncharted, like the set revival, I believe, which is the dragon set. I didn't play it. I'm not super interested in it, but if you are, have fun. That's great for you guys. Now, let's go over trait changes. Revival now is there. Traits, they kind of talk about that they want to buff some of the middle traits. You'll see that Crystal Gambit is getting some changes. This really hurts the Crystal Gambit reroll line, in my opinion. So for example, the Strategist emblem is now moved to 16 kills. Completed Anvil is now moved to 12. The biggest one here, the 2 lesser duplicators, is now 1 lesser duplicator and 4 gold. I think this pretty much kills the reroll Crystal Gambit lines. So like what I'm talking about is like there used to be a flex line that was very popular. It would be this, and then eventually you would hit Zyra, and basically in your back line you would either play Ahri or Malzahar, and then an associated frontline unit, either Nico or Cassante. And this was a reroll line that was very strong, and it capped very high. Without the duplicator cash outs, I think this line is pretty much really bad now. I thought it was one of the more common, or like should be in your repertoire on the current patch. This line now is going to be very, very awkward, I think, because the duplicators was a big part of being able to like use that aggressive tempo, and the strategist emblems as well were like a really high cap potential, and both of those being moved, right, either losing the duplicators or getting the strategist emblem to a higher kill count, in my opinion, is just worse off for that style of comp. So we'll see. You are getting completed item a little bit earlier, but that wasn't as big of a deal. So, you know, it is what it is. That line, at least, is going to be dealt with, or not as common, in my opinion. Sorcerer, a lot of these buffs are to the mid, so the 4 traits, right? Sorcerer, Soul Fighter as well, Sniper, the mid lines, Strategist, you're getting a nerf to some of the shielding. Wraith, you're getting a buff to the middle. All of these seem not super consequential, in my opinion. I think they just make your mid game potentially a little bit more flexible. There are maybe some Sorcerer and Soul Fighter lines that can be a little bit more common in a Fast 9 type of setup, right? A lot of times in Fast 9, you're either playing 6 Juggernaut, or like, you know, you're either playing Bastions, where you're playing 6 Bastion units, or you're playing 6 Soul Fighter, right? Or excuse me, like Bastion or Juggernauts, right? And sometimes you have shared traits, right? You have like Sork and Soul Fighter, and a lot of times, you know, you can activate Gwen, or you can activate some other units. I think these lines are going to be a little bit more common. Maybe there might be some Bastion lines that revolve around like Edgelord with Samira. We'll see later. I already had a sneak peek of it, but Volibear is getting a lot of changes, so, you know, spoiler alert, like this might become more common, stuff like this, but we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, based on like what we see in the when the patch becomes live. But a lot of these, they're not large changes, in my opinion. They're all like, you know, less than 10%, so it doesn't feel like any of these are going to sway greatly, because they already had very conditional spots. I don't think they're going to be like broken and like meta defining in the next patch. Just the Crystal Gambit one. Gnar is getting an increased range. I don't know how much that matters. It might help in some situations where Gnar might be able to snipe the back line. It might make him a better sniper unit. He basically had like less range than the other snipers, so they're making him the same. I don't think this is like a crazy change. Maybe in some situations it might be nuts, but it's like alright, whatever. 2 cost units. Now, Dr. Mundo no longer cleanses debuffs and crowd control. This one's pretty big because it's like kind of weird because of the like interaction with Malzahar. It might make Mundo a lot worse, but I don't think it's super crazy. It was more of an issue with like certain matchups that made it a little bit obnoxious, but it's not something that I think was defining of his kit. But we'll see. Obviously, if it becomes an issue, it might become an issue, because basically if he gets CC'd and he dies without being able to scale up his ability as much, then he can more easily just like not be that Giga Tank, which can hurt some of the Mundo reroll lines. But I feel like all of these were really particular anyways. I don't think it was something you should just bust out, so that's why I look at this and I'm like, this isn't super crazy. It's like, okay, he's getting nerfed, but he was already really particular, so I guess I just won't play him at all type of beat is like my vibe. This is a big one. We have Kabuko nerfs. Kabuko with the Janna board is one of the more oppressive boards on the current patch, and is definitely one of the big hitters as being one of like the more broken situations to deal with, right? So we get a mana nerf to Kabuko, where he's now going to be casting less frequently, and the mentor buff when he gets his secondary damage. This is when he's shooting like his whole spire of rocks or whatever. He's going to be doing less damage. Now, these nerfs are a lot more substantial. As you can see, it's like over 10%. That's usually my breaker point. So you're getting a big nerf to his damage, which is pretty substantial. The damage from the Kabuko was very meaningful, because with the Janna, you can often snipe backline units. And additionally, the casting was really important, because this cast is a stun. So having the 15 extra mana here is going to make it so he has a harder time getting repeat casts off. This obviously is going to be really bad for the board, but without any changes to the other aspects of the board, like veteran or Janna or anything else, I still think the board is going to be quite good, because right now it's like one of the best comps in the game. So obviously, like, given small nerfs, like not small, but given only partial nerfs to the comp, I don't think it's going to be like unplayable. It's not going to be garbage. It's still going to be good, if that makes sense. Next, we have our 3 costs. So Kog'Maw on damage hit is getting nerfed. I felt like Kog'Maw kind of fell off as the patch went on. I think he just couldn't compete up with the damage of a lot of the other comps. So the nerf to me feels a little bit awkward. The only thing about Kog'Maw though is that he has 100 like win conditions with artifacts, right? Like if you take a Kog'Maw, where's Kog'Maw? Kog'Maw? Right? Kog'Maw, like you have Dawn Core, which is broken. You have Flicker Blades, which is broken. Gamblers gives you a lot of econ, but it's not particularly broken. It just like helps you to get to like a point of like critical mass. Lichbane is the Kog'Maw item. It's broken on him. Then you have Static Shiv, that's pretty good. Wit's End is also good. Fuck it, Zanya is not even that bad, right? There's so many hits with the Ornn artifacts that put you in like a win condition, but mostly it's Dawn Core, Static Shiv and Static Shiv and Lichbane. Those are like the major ones. But of course, there's like so many hits for him. Even like this, I think Seeker sometimes can be good on him. So it makes sense that he's getting a nerf, just because like it feels like it's a nerf because of like the artifact versions where he actually has like crazy wins. So in my opinion, I think Kog'Maw now is more artifact locked. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but I just think that, you know, we'll see how things play out. But I think that just relative to how other comps were performing, I think that the artifacts were already almost a necessity on the current patch, in my opinion. So now I would just say, like, you know, rip artifact Anvil. If you hit a Kog'Maw one, he'll still be fine, right? The damage nerfs here don't matter too much, especially if you get the casting ones, because those ones do flat damage anyways, and that's where a lot of the interaction came from. Malzahar is no longer offered Mage. Mage was Malzahar's best damage fruit, but he still gets Noxus Trap, which is really broken. So now it just might be that instead of going for Mage build on Malzahar, you always go for Noxus Trap build on Malzahar, just in terms of fruits. Malzahar, now this is a major bug fix. I don't know how long this bug has been in the game, but when enemies die, now there's no longer instances where 2 stacks of spell happen instead of 1. So allow me to explain. This was a bug with Malzahar. I don't know if it was in the game the entire time, because I didn't notice that Malzahar like had like a huge uptick in damage on the recent patch. So I think this is something that just existed for a while, and it took a while to figure out. But basically, whenever units die, Malzahar takes his infection and it stacks onto the other units that are on the board. So you have this effect that as units die, they get more and more instances of the dot damage stacking, and then that would make it that they would just like instantly die, right? Like they would lose a lot of HP very fast because they have like the stacking magic damage that's getting put on them. When you would do this, however, it would actually add 2 instances. So I'm assuming in like code, instead of it transferring 1, it would transfer with like a +1. So it would transfer 2 instances of that spell damage. So basically every time a unit dies, that instead of whatever dot damage was remaining on the unit that died, it would be a transfer onto another unit, but then it would be transferred a second time over. So it'd be like ×2 damage. That really contributed to like what I always call the House of Cards falling effect. If you watch any of my guides talking about Malzahar, I always say, once you get the first unit to die, then you start spreading the infection, it stacks the damage, and then that unit dies, then it stacks all that damage onto somebody else, and then that unit dies. However, it was constantly adding 1 extra instance every time it stacked, so when you get to those late units, that's why they would all just explode instantly. Now, I don't know how much this affects Malzahar reroll right now, because obviously the comp is still good if you stall out long enough, and I don't know if this brings him back to a point in the past where he was already strong, or if he was always bugged and now he's just gonna lose 50% of his damage, which seems like a major fucking nerf. I don't know. It's hard to gauge this type of thing because like they say like there's no longer instances, right? Like I don't know if this was something that happened all the time. It's really hard to like keep track of something like that in the game, right? Like at least me personally trying to watch it with like a pen and paper trying to add up the numbers because it's bugged. Like I don't know. So what I would say is like this with the Crystal Gambit changes, I would really hope that there's a good Malzahar spot before I would play Malzahar. I'm not going to look at a Malzahar and instantly click the unit, if that makes sense, because I think overall there's like that's a huge nerf to his damage without any compensation either. And you're also losing mage, so you're really losing a lot of damage here. Rammus is getting a buff to his shield, pretty substantial buffs to the shield, so Rammus might be a rerollable frontline unit now. He was already good with a heavyweight emblem or a juggernaut emblem. Like if you had a frontline emblem and you played Rammus in place of another unit, he was pretty good. But this might make him like good on his own, hopefully. And then he also gains more health per taunted enemy. This one's pretty good. So we'll see. Udyr, we're getting some small buffs. They're not super massive in terms of the healing in both his mentor and non-mentor form. I don't think this really makes that much of a difference. These buffs seem very small to me. Now, it is like ×3 or whatever, but it's like less than... It's not quite 10%, so to me, it's like, you know... It's like a little bit less than that. Maybe it's substantial, but I don't think this makes him like broken or anything. It might just be like, you know, mentor reroll lines might just reroll Udyr instead of Kabuko. If you didn't know, Udyr was really strong as a 3-star if you played like any mentor line. So like you might just have to play like, you know, maybe it's Janna reroll, but your cap is Udyr 3 now, right? That's what these changes might mean, but it doesn't really shake up like the way things are played too much, if that makes sense. So yeah. And then Yasuo is getting a nerf to his damage. I don't know why, but sure. Yasuo reroll might be a little bit awkward now. 4 costs. This is the one that I think a lot of people are really looking forward to. Ashe getting a buff. Ashe is still probably one of the worst units in the game. Just fucking sucks ever since they changed her. And it kind of sucks because like it's just like 1 4 cost that you just never want to see basically. They're buffing her mana. Now her mana basically just makes it so she empowers her auto attacks, which is pretty nice. But the thing is, she's not really a caster build, so I don't know how impactful this mana buff is. One thing I will say, by the way, is that a lot of these comps, like a lot of these things, I might be a little bit biased. I want to see how things work on live patch. I've been watching a lot of regionals prep. In regionals prep right now, the patch basically looks exactly the same, minus Volibear, which we'll talk about Volibear when we get there. But like all the other comps, they feel like they're as conditional as they used to be, and as apparent as they used to be. And most of the time, the meta is the same as it is on the current live patch. You either go for a fast 9 build where you hit all of your 5 costs and you cap out really high around Lee Sin 2 or TF2 or anything like that, or with 7 Mighty Mech if you hit a Yone early, stuff like that, or you're playing reroll. And it's mostly a reroll dominated patch. In the regionals prep, it still looks like a reroll dominated patch. Janna still looks good. Katarina, so far we haven't seen any nerfs to Katarina. Katarina is one of the best comps in the game currently on the patch, so she's still going to be good on the next patch, right? No changes to Akali, no changes to any of that. So I feel like most of the comps that are played on the current patch are still going to be played, and since a lot of them are reroll lines, it's hard to say. Now Malzahar is the big question mark, because if Malzahar is useless, that removes one of the rerolls and it might tip the favors into 4 costs and stuff. That is to say, I still think Ashe isn't good enough. I'm not gonna, I don't know if this changes anything. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like a caster type build might be better with her or something. But currently nobody's playing her on regionals prep. So I don't know, unless they have some secret info I don't, and they're all like keeping under lock and key. I don't see this unit being much better than she already is. Maybe she's a little bit better, but who knows. Next we have Karma. So they're buffing her mid damage, or sorry, 2-star damage, quite a bit actually. But at the same time, Karma, I feel like, is really locked towards, like, Gwen. It's really hard to make that board work, because especially against reroll lines, Sork is something that works really well when there's other 4-cost lines. Because Sorks is all about explosive damage and killing units fast and getting the Sork effects to proc. I don't know if this necessarily does enough, because if you're up against, like, a reroll line, let's say you're up against, like, you know, let's just say for sake of example, a Mundo 3, you're never getting the Sork proc anyways. It's a bad matchup. You really need the Gwen that has like the backline damage that can really get stuff going. So like, I don't know how much this is really going to affect things. It really depends. If there's not that many reroll lines, this is a massive buff, because it's going to make the comp a lot more reliable as a 4-cost Slayer. But if it's mostly reroll again on the next patch, I don't know if this is going to be like really reliable. Cassante getting a health nerf, this is pretty massive. I still think he'll be a good tank though, because he has the revive effect. So he's just a really solid tank anyways, and no other changes to his kit. Leona is getting a very small buff to her 2-star and 1-star shielding. I don't think it matters that much, right? It's very little. I don't think this really changes anything. And then Poppy's also getting a buff to her shielding. I don't think this changes anything. I think it's very small. Like, it's less than 10%. Or this one, I guess, is a little bit closer to 10%. It's like 40, it's a little bit above 10%. I don't know, it's hard to say. Poppy, the main thing is best defense, and I think best defense is getting nerfed. So this would make a lot more sense if best defense was broken, but I don't think it's gonna make Poppy broken, right? I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but, or pessimistic, but I don't think so. This is the big one, right? I've been talking a lot about these changes, saying they're not that big, they're not that small. This is a massive change. 5 AD, this is base AD. 5 base AD on a unit, you might look at it and be like, oh, okay, number goes up by 5, who cares, it's not that big, whatever. Like, no, 5 AD on a unit has consistently, over multiple patches and multiple sets, has been a defining factor of making a unit that is bad into a unit that is broken. Right now, Volibear is kind of like okay. In certain spots, Volibear can be good, and you can often tempo with Volibear, because a lot of it is just based on like if he wraps and if he does enough damage. So he's not even that bad of a unit on current live patch. 5 AD definitely makes him a threat, and honestly, if I look at this, I'm like, I would look at these notes and think Volibear is probably the best 4-cost in the game. Now, what does that mean for a lot of comps? Well, Volibear is actually extremely flexible. Volibear, when Volibear was meta, he was very meta. Like, it lasted for like 3 days and then they broke his ankles, right? But when Volibear is good, it opens up a lot of potential, because Luchador and Edgelord are both 2 traits which activate very easily. There's lots of boards that very easily flow into Volibear. You can play Volibear with Bastions, right? Shove in a Shen. You can play Volibear with Soul Fighters. Shove in a Samira. You can play all of them together. Shove in a Braum. You could play 4 Luchador. There's lots of things, and all of the traits are really impactful to the Volibear and can make a lot of interesting builds. Currently, right now, a lot of high cap boards also can play around Volibear, because you can easily just play a 6 Bastion Twisted Fate line, which usually looks something like this, right? You usually play like Zyra Twisted Fate, and this is like a fast 9 kind of board. With all of these potential lines open, Volibear being a stronger unit really allows for a lot of flexibility, because you can very easily play Volibear into Bastions, like I was showing, Volibear into Soul Fighter, Volibear Edgelord just straight up, Volibear into fast 9 situations. Having these types of flexible options is really important and really opens up a lot of potential. This is the big question mark for the patch, right? I cannot tell you guys with certainty without playing on the live patch and seeing how good all of these things are and these changes are. This is the one that really changes based on how, like, this will define whether the patch is mostly reroll or like a good healthy balance of reroll and 4 costs. Because if there's enough 4 cost lines where Volibear is something that's desired, that people are aiming for it, then a lot more people will end up playing around the 4 cost lines just for the potential to hit a Volibear and play around the Volibear, which will push people to level, which will allow the mid game to have more flexibility, right? You don't have to force a reroll to keep your HP high, because there'll be a variety of people that are either reroll with high HP or going for 4 costs that are greeding and holding on to their gold. This is what we really need. We really need a 4 cost to be really good. If I'm being honest, right? Back when Karma was good, and even when Jinx was good and some of the other things were good, it was like a little bit better or a little bit healthier in my opinion. Maybe Jinx was bad because that one Star Guardian patch was really awful. But like, I don't think he's that broken where he's like Jinx level where it's going to be a 4-way Volibear contest. Something you always have to understand. Volibear, if Volibear is broken, that's fine. But like, when Volibear is broken, it's never as bad as a backliner being broken because the Volibear is a frontline unit. So if he's 1-starred, he will just die. It's going to be hard to stabilize around the Volibear. So that's like a big aspect of this, why I'm not like alarm bells, right? If this was like a 5A debuff to Jinx, I would be like, oh fuck, that's a problem. But you have to understand, when it's a frontline unit as well, they're susceptible to just getting like blasted off the airlock. You know what I mean? Like, he's just here. Like, he can just get focus fire and then just lose the round instantly, right? So like, stuff like that matters a lot. So I don't think he's going to be like giga broken, but expect to see Volibear played is what I will say. He will definitely be playable and played on the next patch. This is a large enough change. And even in scrims, in regional scrims, there's a lot of different people that end up playing or fitting Volibear into their board, and it seems like it's quite good. So I think this is a big one. Then Yuumi, ability damage, it's not that big of a buff, but this is almost to what she was like before she got reworked a little bit. I don't know if it's going to make her broken. Like I said, a lot of this, like these changes to me, don't make them any better than like reroll units, right? Like, I think the reroll lines are still going to be better than like a lot of these unit changes. The Volibear one's the big one, because if people are playing around Volibear, then it will make sense to play other 4 costs. It will make sense to play Yuumi and other things, because it opens up that potential. If you don't have to save a bunch of HP in your mid game because everybody's playing around Volibear, then you could play around your high cap units, and then you can play for like the 5 costs and the other things. Because Yuumi's fine if you hit 5 Prodigy and you have a Seraphine 2, but you have to hit 5 Prodigy and hit a Seraphine 2. Right? So it's like stuff like that that really starts to matter. So we'll see how this develops. But this is the optimistic part of the patch notes. When I see this, I'm like, okay, yes, this is the one that, to me at least, I'm like, this is a lot. Maybe I'm over exaggerating it a little bit, but like, to me, this is the part where I'm like, hopefully this makes the game a lot more fun for me. And if you share my opinion, so be it. If you like the way the game is currently, I don't think it's that big of a deal to your general enjoyment either. 5 costs. Varus getting a buff, it doesn't seem that big to me. It's per arrow, he's doing 5 extra AD if he's 2-starred. I think it really comes down to his build. I don't think this is going to be like making Varus like from like really bad to really good. Yone does get a really substantial buff. I think Yone just kind of sucked. This will also help with like a lot of the lines, right? Mech lines become a lot stronger, and those were already really strong. Yone as well with edgelords could be really strong. With the Volibear changes, maybe vertical edgelord or 6 edgelord boards might be like a very viable strategy, or 4 edgelord, 4 luchador, play around 5 cost fast 9 might be really viable. So we'll see how it plays out, of course. But you know, I still think that Yone will still be like, you know, it'll just be like, if you have melee items, maybe you can itemize Yone, because before you would just itemize Lee Sin and the Yone was useless. I don't know if this puts him at Lee Sin levels. I still think Lee Sin is probably better than the Yone on high cap boards, but we'll see. It just gives another option of flexibility, because if you try and fast 9 and you make melee items, now maybe the Yone is a little bit better, but probably just play Volibear instead. I think the Volibears probably will do more damage, but maybe I'm wrong. Augments. So some of the changes, so Blood Rage, just getting nerfed on the last one, the last final stacks. I don't think it was that broken. If I'm being honest, I felt like it was very specific. But the base damage that it gave was pretty good, and it worked really well on reroll lines, so it's getting nerfed, but I don't know, I guess. Darkness Within is now giving less HP per summon. I didn't even know if this was any good. This augment is so specific because it's Wraith. It's tied to Wraith. So you really have to have a good Wraith reroll line, in my opinion, for this to be good. So I don't know. Sure, nerf. Game plan. This one's the strategist related one. Obviously, Janna strategist boards were broken, so this augment getting a nerf makes sense, or it makes sense based on what we were seeing in the current patch. Howling Gale now banned on 3-2. I think this augment fucking sucks. Even in Prodigy, where they're casting Infinite and that's their whole thing, this augment just blows. The Gale goes the same way every time, I'm pretty sure, so you can just dodge it if you know that it's coming. You know what I mean? You just position on opposite side. Like, I don't get it. Like, I wouldn't click it anyways, so getting it banned on a stage I think is good. Izakai now needs Strategist for Strategist version to appear, sure. Echo's getting a health nerf. This is a pretty substantial health nerf. It's like 150 health. So, you know, expect the Echo to be a little bit more killable. Kingslayer disabled. Yes, there was a bug with Kingslayer. I think it was giving more gold than often. So it was like really broken on the current patch. So, you know, G fucking G. Thank God. One more bug off the list. Overheal. HP shield is getting increased. This one felt really weak, but it's also because Guinsoo holders were also not very prevalent on the current patch. Guinsoo got nerfed a couple patches ago, and ever since then, it's been like a really bad item. So like the scaling attack speed that works really well with this augment is just not super prevalent. So I think that's part of the reason why it's like really bad. But getting a buff, sure. Overheal percent healing, now going from 50 to 60, sure. Perfect form Zac. We recently did the hero augment guides on the channel, like a day or two ago, how to play hero augments. I mentioned there that the Zac one is really bad. It's getting a substantial nerf, right? Look at these numbers. 135 to 205. That's like a 20% increase. I'm pretty sure the Zac hero now is going to be pretty broken, right? If you get this with pro tag or if you have a good spot for it, I definitely think it's going to be good. A big thing, though, is that Malzahar is a lot worse. So you might be stuck playing like a Kale version before you can just play this and then reroll into Malzahar, which was really nice. Especially if you got Protagonist. But now you might have to play like more deeper into like the 6th Wraith. 4 Wraith also got a huge, not a huge, but a significant buff. So 4 Wraith mid game with this, with these buffs as well, pretty substantial, right? Pretty substantial is what I would say. Psychic Forge banned on 4-2. Yes, makes sense. Tesla Coil is getting nerfed. This was like a very high cap option for a lot of boards, and it's been one of the better augments in the game, so it makes sense. Tournament Titans, this is the Luchador specific one, is getting nerfed. I don't think it's because it was broken or any good. I don't even think this augment's that good. I think it's just like paired with the Volibear changes, it might be Exodia next patch. So this is like a preemptive nerf to like compensate for Volibear being present or being buffed quite a bit with that base AD change. And then Shen is getting a small nerf to his damage, so Shen hero augment a little bit worse. Now, item changes. These ones are pretty big, depending on what they end up changing. Guinsoo's is getting a buff, and Kraken's is getting a buff. This is a really good synergy because a lot of units, let's say Ashe in particular, you have stuff like Guinsoo Kraken that are going to be a lot better. So this is something that is really relevant for like these types of units that haven't been really prevalent. However, I still don't think Ashe, I don't know if Ashe is going to be that good with the kit because of her lack of attack speed scaling. Like I feel like Xayah reroll might be a much more viable option. So Xayah reroll I think might be really good because her whole kit is getting buffed basically. But it might also help Ashe units. That's like the thing that it usually helps with. It might also help Fast 9 situations, right? Early slamming Guinsoo felt really bad because basically there was nobody that can hold this. But now with the Kraken buffs and the Guinsoo buffs, it might make it so that other units are a little bit more accepting of the Guinsoo Kraken. So this is really nice, and it could make like some Fast 9 situations a little bit better. Last Whisper now has the Sunder effect apply from all damage, not just physical. So you can use it on, you can use other units as holders for it. Like if they have AP but AoE stunning, or sorry, AP AoE damage, then it will apply Sunder now. Before it was only physical damage that did that. So it just makes it a little bit more acceptable on other units. And then obviously the Radiant one's also getting buffed similarly. Artifacts, this one is a big nerf. So Snipers is now getting a change from a 2 range to a 1 range. This is really substantial. A lot of units, Snipers is one of like the main aggressors of like melee user turn into backline carry, right? So losing the extra range now, before it would give 2 range. So 2 range would instantly just give the unit 2 hex range, which can put them here, right? Like further away from the line of fire, and then additionally give them 18% damage off rip, which is really high, right? 18% plus these base stats plus the extra range made it a really good item. With the less range, not only does it make the unit less safe, that it forces them to be a lot closer to the front line, so it's really awkward. They can easily get sniped or hit early. It also decreases the damage amp on these melee holders because now they don't get the 18%, they only get 9%. So it makes it a lot worse. So like things like Yasuo reroll, this was a really big one. Even Gangplank is having a resurgence now, but I think Gangplank is still really good with RFC, right? But like stuff like that, it's like a huge hit to those units. Additionally, on some backline units, it also could matter because now you can't more easily snipe crazy backline units because your range is going to be a little bit smaller. So you can still walk up and do stuff. The 2x range also applied for some of those. But either way, it is what it is. I think it's a good change in general. Yeah. But I think this makes it a lot worse on those melee carries. So many of the melee carries really liked it. It might also be preemptive because snipers on Volibear was also really good, right? The damage amp that you got from this was massive. So this was like really important. And I think a lot of times snipers was the better option, not only for the damage amp, because a lot of these melee units, they have built-in attack speed, right? From being a attack fighter, all these fighter classes, they change it so they gain attack speed as the stages go on. So like it was always better to have this than RFC, or almost always better. There was very few units that wanted RFC instead of the snipers. So that's like a huge hit to all of those things. But at the same time, yeah, it was stupid. So I'm happy with it being gone. Power up changes. Best defense is getting nerfed. This is a big one. It hurts the Janna line. It also hurts Star Guardian because this was a big one on what's her name? It was a big one on Poppy. But in general, I still think that this doesn't super affect the Janna line that much because even Kabuko without best defense was still like a really reliable tank. So we'll see how the nerfs to Kabuko and all of that plays out on live. Janna's still being played on regional scrims, so I don't expect it to be like completely gone on the current live set because it still looks like it's alright. But it just to say. Classy getting removed finally. This fucking sucked. This is one of the worst fruits imaginable. I don't know if it's still on other units. I would just remove it from the fucking game. But you know, it is what it is. It was almost always a bad option. Basically, this is the one where it takes your second trait and it gives you a boost to it. You almost never wanted it. It was just never enough of a boost. It was basically less powerful than like most of the other fruits in the game. Like if you mathed it out, there was like so many better options than it that it was almost never a possibility. It was always like, yeah, I'm either going to take the thing beside it or I'm going to reroll this fruit because it's just not worth it. So yeah, remove it. Good. Shouldn't be on those units anyways. Denting blows, shield increase. This is the Vi specific power up. I don't know, 5% extra shielding. I don't know, try it out. I think it's a waste of time to play the Vi with this fruit. I don't think it makes her that much crazy of a carry. Fairy Tail damage is getting nerfed. This is specifically with Kog'Maw interactions with artifacts, in my opinion, or Kog'Maw interaction with Radiant's Shojin. This Fairy Tail is pretty much in my opinion, is pretty much useless on everybody but Kog'Maw. I think Kog'Maw is the only one where this actually feels like it does a significant portion of damage. So this is strictly just like a Kog'Maw reroll line artifact with condition thing getting addressed, in my opinion. I don't think it, like, you know, it's worse on the other units now, so I think it's like definitely not possible to be good on anybody but Kog'Maw, if that makes sense. Fury Break base attack speed is getting increased. This one has made some crazy things on PvE testing. So like there's stuff where you take Fury Break and you like purposely sack the unit to give like another unit a bunch of attack speed. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see if it plays out or how important it is in live. But like currently right now, it's like you build Gather Force, Gangplank, and then you put Fury Break. If I'm not mistaken, I think Fury Break's the one where it's like if you die, you give your other unit like a bunch of attack speed. And then you would like sack a Kale and the Gangplank would like instant cast or cast infinitely and like do insane things. And then you need an RFC though, and then the Gangplank goes nuts. I saw this played a couple times. It's pretty interesting. We should also check maybe I'm wrong though. Power-ups, Fury. Yeah, this one, right? Gain 25 attack speed. When your other powered up unit dies, gain a burst of 300 attack speed. If you die first, give them the burst instead. This one's really confusing. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you put it on the setup that I was talking about, with like a Gangplank with range, specifically here it's Exodia, because basically this guy just casts a bunch of time and you give him Gather Force and then he gains infinite AD and he just runs around and one taps everybody. But specifically you need the RFC as well. So it's like another one of those like bullshit fruit things that you have to just know about, or else you just get railed by it. So if you get an RFC, you build Shojin on Gangplank with RFC, and then you give Fury Break to Kale. Really obvious, I know, but you know, I'm just making sure that everybody's on the same page. Anyways, Mana Rush weight is getting increased. I don't think Mana Rush is any good. Is it getting buffed? I think this one kind of sucks. It's like worse Gather Force but AP version, if I'm not mistaken. Max Arcana base AP is getting nerfed. This one's really strong on a lot of the reroll lines, so it makes sense. Over 9,000 health scaling is also significantly worse. This makes sense as well, because over 9,000 is pretty strong. Stalking Dart Foxfire, this is the Ahri specific one. She's getting a buff to the damage. Every time she spends 10 mana, she gains this amount of damage extra on her ult, I think, in terms of like an extra little fireball or whatever doing damage. So now it's getting scaled up to 6. I don't know how good this is. I think like Mage is just up front just a better damage or something on her, or the one that she snipes the backline is just straight up better. So I don't know how important this is, but maybe Ahri reroll with this is good. Who knows? I can't tell. It's too much math that I need to, like, you know, because when you deal with stuff that deals with mana and cast timing, when you have stuff that deals with mana, it's hard to math out, right? Because if I'm looking at Ahri and I'm adding 6% bonus damage to her ult, it matters a lot, like her cast timing. It's the same thing with Mage, right? Like, if you ever look at the power up Mage, some units Mage is like really good, and some units Mage is like fucking really bad. So like, I'll give an example, right? Where's Mage? I just want to scroll to it so you can see Mage, right? You cast abilities twice, but deal 20% less damage. If you try and math this out, if you cast your abilities twice, then, you know, you're doing 80 and 80, you're doing 160% damage. So technically Mage, if you get 2 abilities off, it sounds like it's like almost a 60% damage increase, right? So this looks like it would be broken on everybody, but the units that it's broken on specifically are the ones that don't have a large cast timing. Something like Akali, I think maybe it's okay on Akali now, I don't remember, but it used to be not so good on Akali because she takes a really long time to do her cast, and her cast timing got nerfed quite a bit. Jinx, it's really bad on, because Jinx, you'd rather just do the auto attacking damage because you're an AD unit, and you would also just do the one cast and work towards your second cast, because with Mage, it was just like, she just takes too long to wind up her rocket, because she has a really long cast animation. That's a problem. So like with Ahri, it's like, you know, if I rank, like, you know, Foxfire versus Mage, or any of these things where it's like you get extra damage on your ult only, it's like, it's really awkward, because it's like, how much does it translate to extra damage, because we also have the cast timing to take into account, right? And that's how I feel it is with the Ahri one. That's why I'm not certain, right? All I know is that it was useless on the last patch, in my opinion. It was like okay, but it wasn't like crazy broken that you played Ahri because of it, if that makes sense. Super Mega Baseline, this is the Jinx one. It just gives her 30% AD. I'm pretty sure Gather Force gives her more AD anyways, so you should just run Gather Force. I don't know. It takes 1 cast for this to work out. Supremacy removed. Yes, that one sucked. Thank God. Thrill Seeker buff duration getting increased. This one's pretty good. It just makes it so your attack speed lasts longer. And this is a major nerf. Unstoppable 1 second to 0.75 seconds for the stun, and the HP getting nerfed. I'm pretty sure Unstoppable is useless now unless you have a specific build, like one with that stupid thing, unless you have like a Horizon Focus on a tank where you're just using Unstoppable to proc the Horizon Focus effect. I'm pretty sure this sucks now, so I would definitely avoid it. Finally, we have some bug fixes here. Tactician's Kitchen now properly indicates combat count, sure. Mine's Battery now indicates effect better, sure. Know Your Enemies now indicates it grants damage amp. I think that was just for clarity's sake. Power Up Tooltip rephrased, sure. Overheal Tooltip clarified, sure. Star Sailor Power Up now properly applies the stat bonuses correctly every combat. Yeah, that was a bug. So if you were taking Star Sailor and you thought that it was good, you know, now it's better. I don't know what to tell you guys. It was bugged. Kaisa and Yumi do the proper amount of damage with Bullet Hell. Yeah, that was a problem. There was a couple problems with Bullet Hell where it did more damage, and then I think it did less damage. But the thing is, these comps, nobody played them anyway, so who cares? Like, this one didn't matter because you weren't running this. Monster Trainer now can be combined when your player bench is full. This was a massive problem. Where like if you tried to buy your units, sometimes they wouldn't combine if your bench was full. This was really apparent. There was some people, like, you can easily lose a game like this because you just don't get your upgrade. So yeah, that's the thing. So that's good. Nice, fixed. And then Crystal Gambit prop no longer rounds its visual display. I don't know if this affects... Like, there was a thing that if you got exactly the number of a cash out, it wouldn't give you the cash out. So one time, for example, I got 250 out of 250, but then I got a 200 cash out. Or sorry, a 170 cash out, or whatever the lower division was. I don't know if that's what this is referring to, or if it's referring to something else. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm assuming some of the other bugs that I complain about are fixed, like some of the augment bugs. Or they're still bugged. I talked about them in previous patch notes and stuff. There's not a lot of communication, especially in terms of bugs, of what's bugged and what's fixed, in my opinion. Because, like, either stuff is all fixed or they're all still bugged. Like, I don't know. So I can't tell you guys. You know, I still don't know if they bug fixed Jock Show. You know? Or whatever it's called now. Radiant Adaptive Helm. I'm pretty sure it's bug fixed. It looks like it's fixed in the stats, at least. It's not, like, arguably the worst item in the game by far anymore. But, like, I don't think I saw it in the bug fix notes anytime. Maybe I missed it. But, you know, stuff like that. And then, some of the augments, like the true damage augments, I don't know if they're functional yet, but I'm not going to be the one to test it. I've lost enough LP to bugs already. But anyways, main things, I'm optimistic about this patch being a little bit better. I still personally think that it will end up being mostly reroll focused. I'll see tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to play a bunch of games, and then I'll give you guys my best comps, as I normally do. But hopefully this was informative of just talking through like some of the changes and how things are going to work out. All in all, the main thing that we have to understand is that whatever this patch is probably how set 15 is going to play out for the rest of the set. So if you enjoy it, that's great. I'm still going to do content for it. But as soon as PBE happens in like a couple weeks, I think in like 3 or 4 weeks, then we'll switch over to new set 16 content. But for now, it's still set 15 for the next little bit. Have a great day and see ya. Bye-bye.